I got asked today what tip do I have for people to learn faster. Well, learning something faster isn't necessarily something that you can do in a straightforward way. See, each and every one of us has a certain speed at which they can actually learn something. If you're asking about school, and that was the case, well, it also depends whether you actually like the subject. And also, the most important part, whether your teacher is also a good didactical person. Because everyone can teach, more or less, and unfortunately, teachers can also be easily replaced by AI. But the point is, a didactical person, someone who knows how to teach, how to make their own lessons accessible to the others, that is the kind of person that you don't need to learn much. If you're interested, especially in the subject, you can learn everything from the class and maybe rehearse things once or twice, or, if you really like the subject and you take it to your heart, then you probably don't even need to read the subject anymore. The lesson or whatever notes you took and the such. If you want to learn somewhat faster, well, I had one way through which I did it because my brain doesn't function much on reading something 50 times and hope it gets stuck somewhere in there. In many cases in my life, I learned using my short term memory because if my brain doesn't want something within, I can read it 50 fucking times. I might actually remember it for a while. The next day in the morning when I wake up, it's gonna be flushed away already. Yes? So, being a pantheist at heart, and well, that's my design and how I was born, every time I would learn something, I would read a bit of it and then I'd imagine that I was the father of my child, and I'd have my child on my lap, and they could not comprehend what was written in front of them. So I would explain to them just like how I would explain to anyone else. It didn't necessarily help me learn necessarily faster, but it helped me learn for a longer period of time, and it also played well into my pantheistic side. Because they always say treat everyone like you'd like to be treated yourself. And I wouldn't mind being treated as if I were my own child and take care of me the best way I can. So this one actually went well with me. And well, it takes practice, obviously, and you don't actually need to do the so called explanation with a loud mouth. Maybe some people will judge you for apparently talking alone. But you can do that in your own mind. Yes, you can read, let's say, a page or half a page, depending on how complex it is, as much as you can, and then, stretch yourself in your bed, or on a sofa, wherever, and just look at the ceiling, do literally nothing with your body, and imagine you've got, I don't know, your imaginary waifu, or I don't know, your betrothed person, even if they're not there, or you can talk to your, spouse or bestie if someone is there, and you can explain them the lesson as well as you can. Yes, especially if you have someone close. Learning is much better. At least in my case, it goes much better because I've got good sound memory. I can remember what people say in many of the situations, especially if it's of interest to me. But reading something endlessly is not gonna put it into my mind necessarily. If my brain says it's tired and it doesn't want anything in, it's not gonna get in. Yes. So that is why I used to cheat around this with short term memory. The problem is, on the long run, the short term memory will simply flush itself, and well, you'll find out you've learned something just so that you can forget those. If you know that you're not gonna need that information after those exams, well, that might be a good way around. But the point with the child or the bestie or whoever you want to imagine you're explaining to, that can actually be the best point that I can give to others because other means than that I never used, I never had. Taking memory pills never helped, never did anything for me, nor for any people that I knew. I mean, I took once a few of those pills, like one per day, for like I think 2 weeks. I spoke to a medic, and they told me about something like that. I even forgot the pill's name, but I didn't feel any improvement, and I think that you need to do way longer than that. And I don't like many of the medicine pills because some of them can actually end up making you either feel dependent on them, or they have some part of them that can cause a bit of dependency, like for example with some of the sleeping pills. Yes? So hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. You are appreciated. Take care, enjoy life, and this being said, Ferenc Board signing out.